One day, Sam noticed her horse was acting different when she went out to the pasture. She brought her horse to the barn to see what was wrong. Her horse looked weak, had bloody diarrhea, a fever, and showed signs of colic. She called her vet right away to figure out what was wrong. The vet performed several tests and concluded that the horse had contracted anthrax. Anthrax is a gram-positive, rod-shaped bacterium called Bacillus anthracis. This bacterium is found in the soil and affects wild and domestic animals around the world. The bacteria secretes a toxin called the anthrax toxin. This is a 3-protein endotoxin. It is composed of cell-binding protein known as protective antigen and 2 enzyme components called edema factor and lethal factor. In the endosome, the enzymatic components disrupt various immune cell functions such as cell signaling and migration. The toxin invades the immune system, proliferates, and kills the host cell.
The protective antigen is the delivery mechanism of the anthrax toxin. The bacteria secrete the toxin as a single chain, as shown on the left. The protein finds the cell surface and binds to it. An enzyme on the surface of cells then clips off a small piece, the blue color, arming the mechanism. It forms a 7-sided ring by combining with 6 other copies, as seen on the right. This ring binds firmly to cell surfaces, extends into the membrane, forming a pore. The other 2 parts of the toxin then bind to the ring and are brought into the cell. The edema factor, shown on the left, takes ATP, in green, and clips off 2 phosphates, reconnecting the remaining one back in a small loop to form cyclic AMP, destroying the careful balance normally achieved by hormones. Lethal factor, shown on the right, attacks at a very specific protein that makes a cut in several similar mitogen-activated protein kinases. In the graphic, a small segment of this target is shown in green, found in the active site of the toxin. These kinases are important in the signaling pathway, which is significant in cell growth and proliferation. The lethal factor disables this control by destroying one key step in the chain of messages.
It is most commonly found in developing countries such as Central and South America, Sub-Saharan Africa, Central and Southwest Asia, South and East Europe, and the Caribbean. There are 3 types of anthrax: cutaneous, inhalation, and gastrointestinal. This bacteria mostly affects herbivores such as horses, cattle, and sheep, but can also affect humans. It is rare but possible for a human to contract anthrax from encountering an infected animal or animal products. Humans can also be infected from inhaling spores from the air, eating contaminated food or water, or if spores contact a wound. Animals can be infected from grazing in soil where spores are located. Biting flies can also transmit spores from one animal to another. There are 2 forms of this bacteria, peracute and acute. The peracute form affects cattle and sheep. It is sudden onset and rapidly fatal. Symptoms include staggering, dyspnea, trembling, collapse, convulsive movement, and death.
The acute form affects horses. Symptoms of this include fever, chills, severe colic, anorexia, depression, weakness, bloody diarrhea, swelling of the neck, sternum, lower abdomen, and external genitalia. Death usually occurs 2 to 3 days after onset. Incubation of this bacteria is 3 to 7 days. PCR, polymerase chain reaction test, bacterial culture, and fluorescent antibody stains can diagnose anthrax. There is no treatment for anthrax besides preventative measures that can be taken. Animals can be vaccinated with a live vaccine. It is recommended that they be vaccinated 2 to 4 weeks before the prevalent season.
If an animal has shown signs or symptoms of anthrax, they need to be quarantined to prevent the bacteria from spreading to other animals. If an animal dies from anthrax, they should be burned or buried so the bacteria cannot spread. If Sam had been more educated about the anthrax bacteria and the vaccination, her horse would have had a much better chance at staying healthy.